Brian Kilmeade, welcome to Fox News Tonight. I'll be your host for the entire hour. 6 months ago, Canada became the first country in the Western world to ban the sale of handguns and rifles. Canada's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, called for the ban in response to a mass shooting that had nothing to do with Canada. It actually happened in Texas. But none of that mattered to the Canadian politicians. Within hours, the ban became law. When that happened, we posed a pretty simple question to the Canadian Prime Minister, Trudeau. We wanted to know, now is your security detail going to stop with their high-powered rifles to protect you? Here's the response from his office. Quote, "We don't comment on matters related to the Prime Minister's security." So in other words, the people in power get to keep the guns, the people lose theirs. In this country, unlike Canada, we have a Second Amendment. You'd like to think that you would be protected with your Second Amendment from your guns and be able to have a gun. Politicians who want to suspend your civil liberties, well, you have a Second Amendment. They wouldn't be able to do it. But as Justice Scalia famously said, the Bill of Rights is just words on a paper without the government that really cares about protecting your rights. You lose your rights, and that's what's happening right now. This week, Jay Inslee, the governor of Washington still, signed a law banning semi-automatic rifles, which he called assault weapons. Washington state became the 10th state to implement a ban like this. Watch how Inslee justified the massive move.
There is no reason for their use in the state of Washington. No one needs an AR-15 to protect your family. You only need it to kill other families.
Yeah, that makes sense. No one needs an AR-15 to protect your family. Jay Inslee says that, except that obviously it is not true. In fact, Jay Inslee needs an AR-15 to protect his family. We know that because the journalist Ari Hoffman just asked Inslee about his security detail. Would they be giving away their semi-automatic rifles? Here's the response he got. Quote, "As I am sure you're aware, the law exempts law enforcement and military because of their unique needs to be prepared for extreme contingencies." So the governor was talking about daily civilian life, which I think we're all in. So only the powerful need guns to protect themselves, just like in Canada, except that is not true either. You might remember the story out of Florida. Here's the headline, NBC News. Pregnant Florida woman uses an AR-15 to fatally shoot an armed intruder. And here's what the woman's husband, Jeremy King, told the local news station, quote, "Them guys came in with two normal pistols. My AR evened the playing field with my wife and kept them from killing me." That makes sense because AR-15s are far easier to hold, far easier to shoot, easy to be accurate with than handguns. But Jay Inslee has banned them because he says no one needs them for defense. The move is obviously going to destroy gun stores in the state. Here's one gun store owner. He is worried.
So pretty much anything from this point down that way will be illegal to buy. I'm Bruce Smith. I'm the manager at Surplus Ammo and Arms. We are running out of almost everything. And so anything that they won't be able to get, they're looking at. A lot of people have been on the fence, you know, oh, I want to get one of these someday. That someday is today. You know, that someday they realize might be going away. The main part of our sales is going to be in the AR style or in a bunch of the weapons that they are banning. So it's going to affect us a great deal. Not sure exactly to what extent, but it's going to be a significant amount of our inventory is not going to be allowed to be sold.
Yeah, they'll buy them quickly, but they won't buy them for a long time. No, so Jay Inslee now has just legalized pot. He has legalized fentanyl in Washington state. But he's putting that gun store manager out of business. Why is he doing this? He says AR-15s are dangerous. How dangerous are they exactly? Take a look at this chart. It shows that from 2007 to 2017, knives and blunt objects killed 4 times as many people as AR-15. Hands and feet killed more people than AR-15s. None of these people implementing these bans know what they're talking about, and it's sad because they have the power. Now, this month, the director of the ATF, who's supposed to know a lot about firearms, you would assume, couldn't define what an assault weapon is.
I have some expertise in weaponry and self-defense weapons. What could you, in 15 seconds, would you define an assault weapon for me?
So
if you go past 15 seconds, I'll just interrupt you.
No, so I'll go shorter than that because I honestly do think that's if Congress wishes to take that up, I think Congress would have to do the work, but we would be there to provide technical assistance. Unlike you, I'm not a firearms expert to the same extent as you may be.
Right. I'm not a firearms expert. That's the director of the ATF, which stands for Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Is he incompetent or just acting dumb? We can't say. Why is he even nominated? Of course, the ultimate goal, as in Canada, is just to ban all guns anyway. That's why you leave the definition vague, in my mind. It also is why Joe Biden talks about banning ghost guns, which is basically a scary term for components. In April of last year, Biden tried to explain what a ghost gun was. Watch this performance.
If you buy a couch you have to assemble, it's still a couch. If you order a package like this one over here, that includes the parts you need, the direction of assembling a functioning firearm, you bought a gun. Take a look. Take a look at this. It comes in this package. You can see the picture down here, maybe. This is the gun. It's not hard to put together. A little drill, hand drill at home. Doesn't take very long. Anyone can order it in the mail.
Thanks for the demo. What Joe Biden is saying is that the federal government needs to regulate every single component of firearms to make them as hard to purchase and repair and replace as possible. So, if he can't ban guns outright because of the Constitution and Bill of Rights, he wants to make them as hard to buy as he can. He uses the term ghost gun because it sounds scary, but we do have to give Joe credit, at least some credit. He might not know much about guns, but he probably knows more than Sheila Jackson Lee. We cannot resist playing this clip. Here's Sheila Jackson Lee, I should give her a complete name, explaining why the AR-15s are so dangerous.
My bill that I've introduced dealing with the caliber weapon, I've held an AR-15 in my hand. I wish I had it. It is as heavy as 10 boxes that you might be moving. And the bullet that is utilized, a 50 caliber, these kinds of bullets, need to be licensed and do not need to be on the streets.
Gotcha. All right. These are the people who want to disarm you, so to speak, while they hire tens of thousands more of armed IRS agents, 87,000, I should say, along with bodyguards for their own protection. Get your mind around all this because it is happening.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.